I once had a conversation with a really good friend of mine, and he said something along the lines of, well, I have a little bit of OCD, and I'm sure, everyone has a little bit of something. So we're all kind of neurodivergent, right? Uh, so that made me really, think about the words he said. And I don't think he was actually trying to be mean or rude or even trying to relate himself to neurodivergent individuals like me. I think it was more of a casual observation on his part. So I wanted to open up this discussion. Is everyone neurodivergent? By everyone, I'm including, neurotypical people. Can we make the argument that they're neurodivergent too? Yes and no, but I'm going to say no, actually, for the most part. But let's see why. So, neurodivergent usually refers to people whose brains work in ways that are different, that differ significantly. Pay attention to that keyword, significantly, from what's considered typical. And as we already know, it includes conditions like autism, ADHD, OCD, so on and so forth. So by definition, neurodivergent means different from the norm when it comes to those, just brain functioning. And if that indeed is the case, then not everyone falls, into this category. It's not possible. Having said that, this stereotype that everyone is neurodivergent is based on the fact that human brains vary a lot, right, in terms of cognition. So in other words, like no two people think exactly the same way. And that's true. That's a fact. But, and yeah, generally speaking, everyone has these cognitive mental differences. We're all unique in that regard. But that's actually not what neurodivergence is about. That actually describes neurodiversity, not neurodivergence. So slight difference here. Another misconception that people have about neurodivergence, usually it involves like the spectrum idea, the spectrum argument. What is that? So they say something along the lines of traits like attention, sensory sensitivity, like how sensitive basically we are to light and sounds, and so on. They exist on a continuum, on this spectrum, and many people have mild traits. They exhibit those traits mildly without actually meeting the criteria for diagnosis. So that's the issue. However, for clinical and practical purposes, the distinction still matters. We have neurodivergent individuals and we have neurotypical individuals. So that's just the reality. So as we already know, with the neurotypical people, their brain functions are within this kind of expected range, all right? Whereas with neurodivergent individuals, their brain functions and developments are, outside these typical, usual ranges. So now, not just that's just one part of it, but in a way that influences daily life. So these differences in cognition and brain function, it has a significant impact. Remember that word significant. It has a significant impact on how they go about their daily life. And that's really where the distinction comes to play. So while it's true that most individuals, they experience things like forgetfulness or being socially awkward occasionally once in a while, neurodivergence is associated by the frequency, like how often is this happening, these things happening, the intensity, how strongly are these, signs, and the persistence. So, do these conditions kind of end or are they continuous? Because if you're neurodivergent, this is something that's quite continuous. It's not something that's really temporary or like once in a while. So, they're not like occasional quirks. They happen way more often. And they affect our daily functioning, as I just mentioned, regularly in almost every environment, every setting, every situation. It's just always there. And the reason it feels like everyone has neurodivergence is because detection has improved. So we can like recognize it among adults, high functioning professionals like doctors and engineers, and the fact that the current state of the world today is, I could say, maybe kind of taxing on the brain, on our minds. So, like for example, people are constantly receiving notifications like text, SMS, emails, everything, right? And they're always constantly looking at that, checking out their phones. And the way we access information today compared to the past is pretty rapid. Information just high speed. You're just a click away from accessing anything. And this causes like neurotypical people to experience ADHD or OCD like symptoms. I get it because of the burnout, the digital fatigue, whatever the heck you want to call it. So even if they're not biologically neurodivergent, they can experience some of these traits every now and then. So the takeaway point is this. This is the message I want to convey. While everyone's brain is unique, which is true, we're all neurodiverse. Not everyone is considered neurodivergent. So keep that in mind.